In 2025, a survey asked Americans a simple question: how much money would you need to feel financially comfortable? The answer came back: $839,000. The same survey had asked the exact same question 1 year earlier. That answer was $778,000. So in 12 months, the finish line moved $61,000 further away. And it gets stranger. Researchers at Boston College surveyed households with an average net worth of $78 million. Most of them did not consider themselves financially secure. On average, they said they'd need at least a quarter more than they already had. $78 million, and the finish line was still out in front of them, which tells you something uncomfortable. This is not a problem you can earn your way out of. So today, 3 things. 1. How to actually calculate your number. The real math takes about 2 minutes. 2. Why that number keeps moving, which is not a willpower problem. And 3. How to nail it down for good. And at the very end of this video, I'm going to give you a single question. It takes about 30 seconds to answer, and it will tell you your real number more accurately than any calculator on the internet. But it only works if you understand the 3 things first. That's exactly why it's at the end. Because here's what happens without one. You get the raise, you feel great for about a month. Then the new salary becomes normal, the bigger apartment becomes normal, and you're right back where you started, just with more expensive problems. You're not lazy and you're not failing. You're running a race with no finish line painted on the ground. And a race with no finish line has one guaranteed outcome. You run until you can't. A number changes that. A number turns more, which is infinite, into this much, which is reachable. So let's build yours. Your number is not a salary. It's a pile. Specifically, it's a pile big enough that what it produces covers what your life costs, without you working. The most widely used rule of thumb goes like this. Take what you spend in a year and multiply it by 25. That's it. Spend $40,000 a year, your number is around 1 million. Spend $30,000, 750,000. Spend 80, 2 million. Where does that 25 come from? A financial planner named William Bengen ran the numbers back in the 90s, testing 30-year retirements against decades of market history, and found that withdrawing about 4% a year survived every stretch in his data. 4% a year is the same thing as 25 times your spending. Now, this is a rough guide, not a guarantee. It was built on one country's market history over one set of time periods. Bengen himself later revised his own figure upward. Markets vary, life is long, and no formula survives contact with reality perfectly. But notice what the formula is built from. Not your income, your spending. And that is where nearly everyone gets it wrong. Most people calculate their number from what they earn, but the formula doesn't care what you earn. It only cares what your life costs. 2 people on the exact same salary can have numbers that differ by $1 million, because one built a life that costs $30,000 a year, and the other built a life that costs $80,000. Same income, same job, completely different finish lines. So if you've never actually added up what a year of your life costs, not what you think it costs, what it actually costs, then you don't have a number yet, you have a wish. There are only 3 levers that move your number, and it's worth knowing which one is strongest. 1. What you spend in a year. 2. How many years until you need it. 3. The gap between what you earn and what you keep. Now watch what's special about the first one. If you cut your annual spending, 2 things happen at the same time. Your target goes down because the target is built from spending, and your savings go up because the money you didn't spend is now money you kept. It's the only lever that pulls both ends of the rope at once, which is why the person who quietly keeps their life simple gets there years before the person chasing a bigger income, even when the second person earns far more. So that's the math. Take your annual spending, multiply by 25, adjust for your timeline. You could pause this video and have a real number in about 2 minutes. But now I have to tell you the uncomfortable part. Almost nobody who calculates that number ever reaches it and stops. They reach it and the number has already moved. And this is not greed, and it isn't weak discipline. It's 3 specific mechanisms in how your brain measures wealth, and once you can name them, they lose most of their power. That's what I want to show you next. And remember the question I promised for the end. It's built directly on these three. Mechanism 1. Adaptation. Think about the last real upgrade in your life. The raise, the car, the apartment, the phone. Remember how it felt for the first week. Now, how does it feel today? Almost certainly like nothing. Not because you're ungrateful, but because your brain is built to notice changes, not levels. A change is information. A steady state is background noise. So every upgrade gives you a spike of satisfaction and then quietly becomes your new zero. And here's the cost of that. The number you calculated was based on the life you have now, but the life you have now is a moving target because you keep resetting your baseline upward. Your finish line moves because your starting line moves. Mechanism 2, and this one is sneakier. You do not measure your wealth in absolute terms. Almost nobody does. You measure it against the people around you. And here's the trap. As your income rises, the people around you change. New job, new colleagues. Nicer neighborhood, new neighbors. Your feed slowly fills with people who are doing the thing you just started doing. So you climb, and the comparison group climbs with you. You can double your income and end up feeling exactly as behind as you did before because you're now standing in a room where your new normal is everyone else's baseline. You didn't fail to catch up, you changed who you were chasing. Mechanism 3, and this is the expensive one. Lifestyle moves easily in one direction and painfully in the other. Upgrading feels like nothing. Downgrading feels like losing. So spending tends to ratchet, click, 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 one notch at a time, and it almost never clicks back. Now connect that to the formula. Your number is your annual spending times 25, which means every permanent upgrade doesn't just cost you what it costs, it multiplies. A $200 a month upgrade, a nicer car payment, a bigger place, one more subscription bundle is $2,400 a year times 25. That single decision just added $60,000 to your finish line, and nobody feels that at the moment they sign. So that's why the number moves. You adapt to every gain. Your comparison group climbs with you, and your spending ratchets one way only, quietly multiplying your target by 25 every time. 3 mechanisms. None of them are character flaws, they're just how the machinery works. Which brings us to the useful part. How do you actually nail the number down? 3 moves, and then the question I promised you. Move 1. Write the number down, physically, with a date next to it. An unwritten number is not a target, it's a mood, and a mood will drift upward every time you get a raise or scroll past someone else's highlight reel. But writing the figure alone isn't enough, because a figure is meaningless. Next to it, write what it buys, not 1.2 million. Write, the mortgage is gone, I choose my hours, and I never check the price of groceries again. That sentence is the actual goal. The number is just the receipt. And here's why this works. You can move a number without noticing. It's much harder to quietly move a sentence you wrote in your own handwriting. Move 2. Before you commit to any permanent upgrade, run the multiplication out loud. Take the extra annual cost, multiply by 25, and look at what it just did to your finish line. Not, can I afford this month? Ask, am I willing to add that much to my number? Sometimes the honest answer is yes. Some things genuinely are worth years, and this is not about depriving yourself. But now you're making the trade consciously, with the real price tag visible, instead of discovering years later that your finish line drifted $500,000 away while you weren't looking. Move 3, and it's the one that actually decides this. Enough is not a place you arrive at, it's a line you draw. If you wait to feel like you have enough, you will wait forever. Because we just went through the 3 reasons that feeling keeps retreating. The people who genuinely feel wealthy are almost never the richest people in the room. They're the ones who defined the line, wrote it down, and then refused to move it when their income went up. That refusal is the whole skill, and it's a decision available to you today at any net worth. Because there's a bill for never drawing the line, and it isn't paid in money. It's paid in the years you spend earning something you already had enough of, the decade you were too busy to notice. There is no amount of money that buys back a year, and that is the one exchange rate that never moves in your favor, which is exactly what this question is designed to expose. So here it is. 30 seconds. Answer it honestly. If your income and your investments froze exactly where they are today, permanently, no more raises, no more growth, this is it forever, what would you actually have to give up? Don't answer with a feeling. Make a list. Write the specific things. And then look at that list, because two things will be true. First, everything that is not on it, you already have, permanently. It was never at risk, and you've been running for it anyway. And second, that list, that short, specific, unglamorous list, is your real number. Not a round figure that sounded impressive. The actual, concrete gap between where you are and enough. Most people are genuinely shocked at how short the list is. Some people finish it and realize they crossed their own finish line years ago and simply never told themselves they were allowed to stop. So write your number down. Write what it buys, and run that question once a year, because the answer changes, and you want to be the one who notices. I'm Lenz. If this gave you a clearer, quieter way to think about money, subscribe. Next time, we'll unpack why your own brain is wired to sabotage your future self, and how to beat it. Until then, decide where your finish line is. I'll see you in the next one.